You wakes up every day with the same feeling. It seems that life is trapped in an invisible cycle, where nothing really changes, even when he tries. And, in an almost cruel way, the world repeats the same silent phrase. That's just how it is. Get used to it. But what if the problem isn't in life, but rather in the first sentence he says upon waking? It seems absurd, but it is precisely here that Napoleon Hill's most powerful method begins. At the exact moment the mind awakens. Most people believe that changing their lives requires luck, money, or an unexpected miracle. But the paradox is simple. True change begins before any action. It begins within, in the first thought of the day. And that's why there are people who, even without resources, transform their destiny, while others, with everything at their fingertips, remain paralyzed. The secret lies in how the mind is programmed in the first hours of the morning. And what nobody told you is that there are 7 specific statements. These techniques, studied and used by extraordinary minds, alter emotional structure and guide the brain like a hidden GPS. When repeated correctly, they reorganize beliefs, dissolve fears, and activate an inner strength that has always been there, but dormant. This is not cheap motivation. It is not magical thinking. It is applied mental mechanics, exactly as Napoleon Hill described. Now imagine starting your day not being pulled by old fears, but guided by a new certainty. Imagine waking up and, instead of repeating old patterns, giving your mind such strong commands that even your body responds differently. This isn't theory. It's practice. It's emotional science. It's applied spirituality. And today, he's going to learn these 7 keys. But first, he needs to understand why no one has ever explained it this way before. Why morning affirmations work. Autosuggestion. He wakes up and, still half asleep, is already negotiating with his own mind. That's when statements, autosuggestion, and morning ritual, they come into play. The brain is more plastic upon waking, and the mental reprogramming, it happens more easily in that space between the silence and the first coffee. He chooses words that shape focus, prosperity, and direction. Nothing mystical. Emotional repetition directs attention, and attention, with practice, becomes behavior. When he declares it aloud, the body listens to the command and aligns posture and action. Napoleon Hill would call this creating mental pathways. To put it practically, upon getting up, he says 3 times, "I choose focus and prosperity today," while making the bed, a simple action that confirms intention. This word plus gesture pairing is imprinted on the system. The result? Less noise, more direction. And daily direction shapes destiny. Example of a 2-minute routine that anyone can do. 30 seconds of breathing. 60 seconds of statements. 30 seconds viewing a completed task today. Keywords such as autosuggestion, morning ritual, and mental reprogramming. These patterns are repeated to stay on track. He learns that it's not about feeling like it, it's about choosing mental routes before the day's stimuli. And when the route is mapped out, it becomes easy to move on to preparing the ritual. Did you like the journey? Preparation for the morning ritual. He realizes that the morning ritual doesn't begin when he opens his eyes, but in the way he decides to. Enter the day before any notification goes off. He takes a minute to create a microcosm of presence, almost like tuning an instrument before playing. Taking a deep breath, he understands that this small gesture prepares his mind to receive future messages. Statements aligning energy, focus, and purpose. It's simple, yet profoundly strategic. To make the ritual tangible, he sets aside a corner of the house, even if it's just a chair by the window, where the morning light creates a welcoming, silent atmosphere. In this space, he places a notebook to jot down insights, a glass of water, and perhaps a verse that inspires him. This environment is like a mental shortcut. Whenever he enters there, his brain understands that it's time to auto-suggestion and mental reprogramming, a kind of internal trigger that facilitates discipline. If someone asked how to begin, he would explain that the secret lies not in a complex ritual, but in creating consistency. A person can, for example, put their cell phone on airplane mode for 5 minutes upon waking, light a candle, or simply sit with their spine straight. Any symbolic gesture that tells the mind, "Now I am in control." And it is in this silent control that the ground is prepared for the first affirmation, the one that opens all other doors. Affirmation 1. I have a divine right to be prosperous, happy, and abundant. He always thought prosperity was something distant, reserved for a select few, until he realized that the real key lies in recognizing that abundance, it's a right, not a prize. By repeating this statement early on, he begins to dismantle old beliefs that said, it wasn't for him. It's as if he's giving his mind back permission to grow. And when the mind allows it, the path opens up. To put it into practice, he creates a small exercise. Every morning, he chooses a gesture that represents inner prosperity. Tidying the table, organizing his wallet, planning 3 essential tasks for the day. These simple gestures serve as micro-evidence that he honors his own worth. After all, prosperity isn't born in one's pocket. It's born in how one treats what one already has. It's almost impossible not to notice how this intention alters his posture. Over time, he realizes that this affirmation speaks not only of money, but of emotional fulfillment, spiritual balance, and mental dignity. It's like exchanging an old map for a new compass. He understands that by declaring this right every morning, he is aligning his identity with greater possibilities. And this inner shift naturally prepares him for the next affirmation, which reveals where the true source of power lies. Statement 2. Everything I need is already within me. He spent years believing he needed more time, more resources, more approval, until he realized it was just a comfortable illusion. When he repeats, "Everything I need is already inside me," something profoundly changes. External dependence gives way to an inner strength that has always been there, just waiting for permission to emerge. It's almost like finding a secret door in his own chest. And, curiously, it has always been unlocked. To turn this statement into daily practice, he adopts a simple gesture. Before starting his day, he asks himself what the smallest step he can take is using only what he already has. It could be sending a message that pushes a project forward, studying a topic for 10 minutes that brings him closer to a dream, or organizing something he's been putting off. This exercise confirms what the phrase proclaims. The source of movement is within, not outside. Over time, he discovers that trusting in what he already possesses is an act of silent courage. The mind, previously conditioned to expect perfect conditions, begins to operate in a mode of creation, not need. It's like exchanging a gray filter for a clearer lens. Everything gains color, possibility, and direction. And it is this new clarity that naturally leads him to the next affirmation, the one that puts him in tune with something even greater than himself. Affirmation 3. I am in perfect harmony with God's energy and the order of the universe. He always thought he was alone on the journey, until he realized that there is a silent intelligence weaving every detail of the path. When he repeats, I am in perfect harmony with God's energy and with the order of the universe, he reconnects to this higher consciousness. It's like adjusting an internal antenna. Suddenly, what previously seemed like noise begins to make sense. And with sense, direction is born. To make this harmony tangible, he has created a small habit. Before starting any important decision, he closes his eyes for 10 seconds and imagines a golden light descending through his head. It's not mysticism, it's focus. This brief gesture calms the body, reduces anxiety, and opens space for true intuition, the kind that doesn't shout, but guides. This is how he begins to make more assertive decisions, almost always with a feeling of peace accompanying each step. Over the course of the days, this affirmation becomes a kind of emotional compass. Whenever chaos tries to steal clarity, he mentally repeats, "There is order, even when I don't see it." And this phrase acts as an anchor, reminding him that the forces governing life are not against him, but in his favor. This feeling of inner alignment opens space for something essential: the discipline and courage needed to act, exactly the theme of the next affirmation. Affirmation 4. Today I act with discipline, courage, and focus. He always believed that discipline was something reserved for different people, until he discovered that discipline is actually a daily decision, not a talent. When he repeats, "Today I act with discipline, courage, and focus," he sends his mind a clear command: movement before emotion. It's like turning the car key even when the internal engine still seems cold. And, surprisingly, the engine always responds when he decides to turn the key. To put this statement into practice, he chooses a small yet inconvenient task and performs it first thing in the morning, answering a pending message, tidying his workspace, paying a bill that has been put off. Each of these micro-actions is living proof of courage and focus. Even when motivation hasn't yet appeared, he discovers that motivation doesn't precede action. It's born from it. And that completely changes how he approaches his day. Over time, acting with discipline ceases to be an internal struggle and becomes part of one's identity. He realizes that by repeating this phrase every morning, he is programming his brain to ignore distractions and broaden priorities. It's like adjusting a camera lens. Everything that doesn't matter is out of focus. And when the focus aligns, a new understanding emerges: the power of thoughts in creating reality. Precisely the next affirmation that shapes his destiny. Affirmation 5. My thoughts create my reality. I choose to think big. He realizes that before any visible change happens, it is first born within the mind. When he repeats, "My thoughts create my reality," he assumes the role of co-author of his own life. No longer a spectator. It's as if he's swapping a radio with interference for a clean frequency, where every idea has creative power. And by affirming that he chooses to think big, he takes a bold step towards the future he wants to build. To put this into practice, he begins to monitor his thoughts like someone tending a garden. Whenever he notices a thought of scarcity trying to sprout, he mentally says, "Cancel," and replaces it with something higher: "I am capable. There are opportunities. I can learn." This seemingly simple exchange changes decisions, conversations, and even the way he views challenges. After all, the mind works to confirm what it believes. Over time, thinking big ceases to be a fantasy and becomes a habit. He begins to have bolder ideas for his projects, to accept invitations he would previously have refused out of fear, and even to see possibilities where he once saw obstacles. It's as if the world expands in the same proportion as his mindset broadens. And this awakening leads him to a new discovery. If thoughts shape reality, then the greatness he seeks may already be within him. Exactly what the next statement reveals. Affirmation 6. I am destined to accomplish great things. Greatness lives within me. He had always heard that greatness was for the few, until he realized that this limiting belief didn't match the inner nudge that insisted on reminding him of who he really is. When he repeats, "Greatness lives within me," he's not inflating his ego. He's awakening his awareness of purpose. It's like turning on a flashlight in a dark room. Suddenly, the contours of one's own identity become clear, and clarity in itself is transformative. To apply this affirmation, he makes a habit of speaking firmly in front of the mirror, observing not the reflection, but the intention behind the gaze. It is at this moment that he recalls the times when he overcame pain, faced challenges, and did what no one expected him to achieve. This activated memory is living proof of greatness. And, curiously, when he remembers who he is, he acts accordingly, with poise, dignity, and direction. Over time, he realizes that greatness isn't about fame, about being seen or recognized. It's about quiet impact, inner consistency, and daily courage. He understands that true greatness is expressed in small choices, like forgiving when it's difficult, persisting when it's tiring, and remaining when everything seems like an invitation to give up. And it is in this state of inner maturity that he prepares for the final affirmation, the one that transforms fear into action. Affirmation 7. Every day my faith is stronger than my fear. He always believed that courage was the total absence of fear, until he discovered that the strongest are still afraid. They just don't stop because of it. When he repeats, "My faith is stronger than my fear," he declares an internal hierarchy. Fear may speak, but it doesn't command. It's as if he puts faith in the driver's seat and fear in the back seat. Fear observes. Faith drives. To make this statement a reality, he adopts a small daily gesture. Every time fear tries to paralyze him, he takes a deep breath and takes a step, even a small one. It could be sending a proposal, starting a difficult conversation, or even beginning something he'd been putting off for fear of not being good enough. This micro-movement proves to his own brain that action overcomes hesitation. And little by little, fear becomes just a signal, not a sentence. Over time, this declaration of faith becomes an emotional armor. He realizes that when he acts despite insecurity, he grows. When he persists despite doubt, he matures. When he trusts despite the unseen, he expands. It is this cycle of active faith that prepares the mind to understand the final topic: how to transform all these affirmations into a daily and permanent habit. The secret that solidifies everything that came before. Turning affirmations into a daily habit. He soon realizes that repeating the affirmations once or twice doesn't change much. The power lies in consistency. When he understands this, he begins to treat the morning ritual like brushing the teeth of the mind. Simple, daily, and indispensable. Self-suggestion becomes a habit, not an event. And it is in this emotional repetition, charged with intention, that the mind begins to accept a new identity as truth. To solidify this routine, he creates a 5-minute microscript. Breathe for 30 seconds, repeat the affirmations for 2 minutes, visualize the day for another minute, and write down a small action that confirms everything he declared. It's not about perfection, it's about continuous movement. This practice fits easily into even the busiest routine, and precisely because it's simple, it becomes powerful and difficult to break. Over time, he notices something curious. Emotions once seen as enemies, fear, doubt, anger, anxiety, now become fuel. He learns to transmute them, redirecting emotional energy into focus, discipline, and courage. It's like catching fire and transforming it into light. And when he realizes that all this is working, he naturally feels that the script needs a powerful opening. Exactly what will come now in the introduction. He reaches the end of this journey realizing that nothing changes out there until he changes what happens inside. And now that he knows the 7 affirmations, the inevitable question arises: what will he do tomorrow when he wakes up? Will he repeat the old thoughts, or will he finally take control of his own mind? Because, deep down, he already knows. Life only begins to respond when he changes what he declares, at the dawn of each day. And if he truly applies this, everything begins to reorganize itself, first in small details, then in big movements. So ask yourself, how long will you let fear guide your steps? How long will you allow old thoughts to create realities you've already overcome? And what if, just for today, you decided to test this practice? Imagine where you could be in 30 days, or even in a week. Now it's your turn. Which of the 7 affirmations resonated most deeply with you? Which one will you repeat tomorrow morning before even setting foot on the ground? Write it in the comments. This reinforces your decision and creates a real commitment. Remember, nobody changes their entire life overnight, but you can change yours. Travel and the day changes life. If this video has inspired you, then don't leave your journey unfinished. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to continue learning how to reprogram your mind, strengthen your faith, and transform your destiny from the inside out. There's so much more waiting for you. And believe me, the impossible only remains impossible until you believe enough to take the first step.